I'm going to open my file here to give you an example of the okay, this is a Dover Celtic catalog. This is, I think, is $19. It gives you two things. It gives you a JPEG so you can actually see the artwork. And this has 96 total elements in it. So I'll go ahead and open that. All right, here you go. These are what you get. Now these are vectors, so you can just import them straight in. So this gives you an example of the different elements you can get from a Dover publication. And when you buy the book, you own the art, so you can use it copyright free. I mean, you purchased the copyright for these. So you also can, this is a general arts and craft one here. This one has 231 different items. These are Art Nouveau arts and crafts style things. And if you go up and look, you'll see that I use this design right here on one of my boxes up here. So that's the program from Dover Arts, and it really is a good way to, if you need an entire genre of art to work with. All right. So let's go back to our, and I'm going to show you something. We're going to import. I'm assuming that you have the downloads file here. There it is. And we should have had the design for the fish.
That's it right there.
This one?
Yep. It says trout on it. Red-throated trout.
Trout. I saw the adult.jpg. I didn't know if I should click it. Okay.
I knew I shouldn't have logged on there.
Well, I'm not using. Okay. So let's. All right, there it is. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to go ahead and bring that into Corel. Okay, there it is for Corel. Now, if you notice that this is a JPEG file, you can get. There's a number of ways to cut that fish out. You're wondering how to get rid of backgrounds on that. One way is that's really quite easy. It takes little time, and it is to go ahead and just draw a line around it. And the way you do that in Corel is you draw lines with as few stopping points as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this, and I'm going to just select the edges of a couple places. And then you double click. So you can kind of see what I'm doing here. Okay, now I'm going to stop there. The reason you do it this way is because you can get fairly accurate. Notice that there's the arrow up here where you select. Below it is an arrow that lets you edit each line. So if I come up here and I click it, you see there, if you look carefully, there's a dotted line in that. Okay. This will let you actually grab that line and move it. But in order to move it, it does straight lines. We're going to select all the lines, and we're going to convert that line to curves. All right? Once you convert any kind of outline to curves, it lets you move each individual item separately. So I'll show you how quickly you can actually do this. We'll go ahead and grab that and bend it up and get it pretty close. All right, there we go. Is this making sense what I'm doing here? Okay. So it lets you actually go in and cut out the elements of the fish pretty easily. And the less dots you have, the easier it is. Now, if you have an example like this line right here has a high point and two low points, you can actually right-click on the line and add a point to that. So now only this side moves. So you put that down on that side, and you can move this one down too. It was pretty easy. So once you're done with that, you just use that cut command, and it'll copy just the fish. And you pull it off, and there's no background left. Okay? Cookie cutter. So, so let's go ahead. I'm going to delete that. We'll just do this. And I hope the cookie cutter's working here. Say that is our line. There it is. Good. Okay, good. It worked. So say we had done the fish. There, it cuts right out and leaves everything behind. So it's a real easy way to cut out the item behind it. There's another way, and it's actually a way I use sometimes, and let me show you that. And that is we're going to, first of all, we're going to crop this down to have less background. Take out the letters. Okay, we're going to crop that. Didn't crop. Should. There it is. Okay, now we're going to do, it's called Trace a Bitmap. Do you know what tracing is? Okay, tracing lets you go in and it'll actually make it into a line. I always use outline high quality. Okay, so it'll automatically go ahead and trace that fish. It'll come out pretty close, not quite as good. So if you notice this top over here, this line, I almost always want to have that detail as much as possible because you'll preserve as much of the fish. Now it's beginning to look better. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and OK that. So there is our. Now we have a vector program. But how do you get rid of all that other stuff? So what I do is I take another box and I make it black and I send it to the back. And that shows you everything that has to be released. So we're going to click that center one and we're going to ungroup everything. It's going to have thousands of things. But it lets you go in and just delete all the pieces that you don't need. And you get very accurate. Right, is this making sense? So sometimes when it's white, you can get, now you can select, starting outside, you can select whole sections of it and delete everything. As long as there's stuff in there. So this is how you get rid of the background. Now when you're left, what you're left with is just the fish. Or whatever it is you're deleting out. Come on now. Keep grabbing that. Yeah, when you select, you have to not click inside a box. Ah, there's a big one. It's almost a game, actually. Just take me a minute more. So this fish is actually just about ready for putting on a fly box or something. It'll really come out nicely. I've actually done this fish before on a number of things. This is from an old 1890s English. I believe this one is the English Zoological Society of England. They did catalogs of all the different animals and fish that they have, and really spectacular drawings at the turn of the century. And of course they're all available because they're one, government. Most likely anything produced by the government as far as artwork is usable, but if it's owned by the government, like a Picasso, it is not. The original, they don't assume to own the copyright. But if a government official did the drawing on the public dime, it is a member of the public domain. All right, so as you can see, we're just about done here. Let me get the last few. All right, so there's our fish. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that box, and then I'm going to combine that back so it's all one item. So there is a fish that you can use to in your etching. Now if you find out that see how light it is, if you come up here to effects And you can look here, you can transform. Let's see, where are they? I guess they're not lit. Nope, it's not going to let me do it. Before you convert it, you can go in and you can lighten and darken that image so that it has a little bit darker spots to it. So now we've got this, and we look around, and it's usable. What you can also do now is, if it's all in one piece, let's see if it works okay. This is always tricky when you have something. This probably has 1,500 or 2,000 different elements in it, so it's now a fairly big file. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to, on Object, there is a shaping, and this is a really important program element, and it's called a boundary. And we're going to see what happens here. You can put a boundary, there it is, it worked perfect. Okay, this is a boundary now around that fish. You can see if I move it out, there it is. What's important about a boundary is if you're going to do an inlay, any kind of inlay of two different items into one piece, you need to have that boundary. And what you do is, I'm going to take this boundary and I'm going to copy it over here. And now I'm going to fill it and take the red line off. So when you engrave this in any piece of wood or plastic or anything, over here is the piece that'll fit in it exactly. You don't have to do any adjustments if you're using wood. Plastic, no, you really don't. I've never had a problem. So what you do, say you're going to be doing, I'm going to join that so they don't get lost. Say you want to just do a fly box, maple fly box with a fish in it. You just engrave that. You can cut this out of a thinner material on a second run, and that'll just drop right in there, just perfect. This will work with letters. It'll work with anything that has a line around it. Now, if you decide, you know, I would prefer that fish to be bigger, the only thing you have to remember that whenever you size one, you have to size the other. But they do not have to be on top of each other because of the way it calculates it. All you have to do is have both selected. And when you size it, they go up correspondingly, and you never lose the ability to actually drop that in there. So it makes it so much faster whenever you're deciding, you know what, I want a bigger fish, that you size them both together. They can be on the other side of the page. It doesn't matter. As long as they're both selected, this fish will now fit, perfectly in that fish. Does that help you out? So that's pretty much how you do inlays. Now, when I do inlays, depending on the thickness of the wood, you either want it to have relief or be flat. And the best way to do that is that when you send this file, we're going to send this file to see what happens here. Is the Corel in there? Is the...
No, the lasers are not set.
Okay, so I can't do it here. What you can do is you send the file, and you don't want to, we'll have to do this out at the machine, I think. You don't want everything to cut. So in the Corel, you can go ahead and select the fish just there. Go in and you can run just the fish on the wood. And then run it twice, and it'll cut that twice as deep. So you can control the depth of your inlay by how many times you run it on the computer or on the laser. And one of the nice things about the laser and the system that the ULS has is that you can select certain items that need to be deeper or cut better. Just do those. As long as you don't touch the piece in the machine, it'll line up perfect, and you'll have a perfect cut every time. So if you find out that you need it not to be up as high, just run it and cut it twice at the depth. Then run it again to cut it out. So you're not thinking of doing a job as just one thing through the computer. So that's why you can do 2 or 3 at a time and work on it that way. So for example, if you wanted to do something quite complex and put a border around a frame or something, you can use your pictures and you can do a frame. Now again, when you select these and you drag them to turn them, if you hit Control